So while it has been wonderful and it's great, not all of life is not like that. Or some of life is like pulpit rock. It's difficult. And we're living in a world where the three most important things to people are me, myself, and I. We live in a world where the three most important things to people are me, myself, and I. I don't know if you've ever met somebody who talks a lot, maybe like me, and you start talking to them and having a conversation, and then they tell you, hey, enough about me. Now let's talk about you. What do you think about me? You know, that's just our world. Our world is just, we have a proclivity to be inward and self-focused. We are the center of our own lives. That is what life has been. Now, today we're going to talk about our unique identity, and just a little recap of where we've been is we talk about rethinking of missions. And we talk about rethinking of the starting point of missions, which is the doctrine of the image of God. We talked about rethinking postures, and we talked about the 5 postures that we need to rethink as we go into missions. Last week, we looked at a story that helps us rethink our motivation as we go. We look up, we look in, we look out. We look up, we see God. We look in, we see that we are sinfully depraved people, but then we have been scandalously graced. And when you realize that you've been scandalously graced, what do? You go out and say, Lord, here I am, send me. Today, we're going to look at our unique identity in missions. And this is in the background of a world that is so self-centered, where everybody's thinking about themselves. We're the center of our own world. And it reminded me of a quote by the great Augustine, who, if many of you don't know, Augustine is portrayed as a European, but he's actually an African. Augustine of Hippo, which is modern-day Algeria, said this. He said, Homo incurvatus in se. Humanity is carved in on itself. And actually, Luther popularized this. He popularized the idea of us being so self-centered. So how does the church show up? How do you and I show up in a world that is self-centered, that is self-serving? The church has to have the hope and the realistic acknowledge that the world is terribly broken, but we're called to be counter-cultural. And upside-down disciples, unschooled, illiterate people, turn the world upside down. What is the work of the church in a time when we are so self-centered? Who do we show up? And so our table of contents today is going to be this. What is the work of the church? What is our unique identity? Who are we as our church? We're going to look at that. And then second, we're going to look at how we're called to do it. And then finally, we're going to look at how we get to do it. So brace yourselves for impact. Here we go. So we're going to go to a story in Matthew chapter 5. And this story is Jesus talking to his disciples. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. Now, the Sermon on the Mount is actually Jesus talking to his disciples, but guess who's listening? The crowds are listening. So this is given to you. It's spoken to the church. So let's see what Jesus says to the church, you and I. He says this, you are the salt of the earth. Not you're gonna be, not you might be, not you may be. He says, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt should lose its taste, how can it be made salty? It's no longer good for anything but to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. He's talking to his disciples. And then he says, you are the light of the world. You're a city situated on a hill that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see. Who may see? They may see your good works and give glory to God in heaven. What is the work of the church? Our work, the church is called to be, Jesus gives us 2 images when he says who we are called to be. He gives us the image of salt, and he gives us the image of light. Now, when we think about salt, so let's look at them. Let's look at how these 2 images work. So when you think about salt, for us who live here especially in the Western world, we think of salt as a seasoning, and that's one element of it. But in the Near Ancient East, salt was used as a preservative. It was a preservative. And when Jesus says, so when they had meat, when they had things to store, they would put salt in it and store it. And I'm sure before 1968 in Stavanger and in Norway, I'm sure we did that because there wasn't much electricity. There wasn't much refrigeration. There was no GE and Maytag. So what they used to do is to put salt. So salt primarily was used as a preservative. So what Jesus is saying here is that he's making an assumption, and he's saying that left to itself, the world is prone to decay, the world is prone to disintegration and degradation. And he says it's the work of the church to keep the world from decay. It is the work of the church to keep the world from decay. And you know what I'm talking about, don't you? I mean, I realized that this week when I was going up Pulpit Hill. I realized I'm no longer 20. I'm over 50 years old. I cannot do what I used to do a long time. My body is degenerating. I am disintegrating slowly. And you know when you start getting random injuries, like sometimes when you're after 40, you start getting injuries like, how did you get hurt? I got hurt waking up. I just got out of bed and oh my gosh, I'm pulling a muscle pull. Or you just wake up in the morning and you realize the wrinkles are just like twinkling a little more. You know, your body is doing things, and so you have to keep maintaining your body. You have to exercise. You have to eat right. You have to go and have a colonoscopy. Can I get a colonoscopy witness? Your body is disintegrating. You are physically, we are falling apart. And for some of you, it's not that frivolous. It's not that simple. Some of you have been dealing with parents who are going through dementia or going through chronic diseases, and you can see that our bodies are disintegrating. We're losing power. We're losing energy. Things are falling apart. Relationships are falling apart. There's a Nigerian author known as Chinua Achebe. He wrote this book called Things Fall Apart. And I love this book. I read it when I was in school. And it just reminded me that things are falling apart. Relationships are falling apart. Look at families being divided, falling apart. Psychologically, we are falling apart and we're living in a very anxious, one of the most anxious generations. Things do not hold together. Things are falling apart. The universe itself is falling apart. It's losing energy. The second law of thermodynamics says that generally, energy is dissipating. The universe is fast moving into disorder, into disrepair. You know, we in Kenya, whenever there's a big event, we make goat, because goat is good all the time, and all the time goat is good. I'm telling you, goat is the best thing. If you've never discovered goat, you need to understand. Goat is amazing. You know, so imagine for a meal you make a really this beautiful, succulent, juicy, goat. And you decide, okay, let me leave it there for 4 hours. Well, not as tasty, but leave it for 8 hours. What happens? Not really good. Leave it for 24 hours. Leave it for a year. Then you're calling hazmat. It's losing energy. It's losing energy. Our world is slowly losing energy. Disorder, disintegration, degeneration, and decay. Things are falling apart. But here's the point. Being utterly realistic about a disintegrating world, Jesus is calling us to act as salt and to work against the decaying of this world. What would happen if North Sea Baptist Church, instead of running away from trouble, we moved towards trouble? What if we moved towards those that are suffering? We moved towards marriages that are falling apart. We moved towards kids who are being separated from families. Kids who have no place to be known, to belong, to be valued. What if we moved towards them? You see, we are called to act as preservatives to bring our world together from falling apart. One identity, why Jesus calls and tells his disciples, you are salt, is because you're preservatives. The world is going to move to decay. The world is going to rot. The world is going to disorient. But you get to be the ones who preserve the world from falling apart. What is our unique identity as Christians? To keep the world from disintegrating, to become a preservative. But the second aspect of salt is what? Seasoning. So Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. Now, salt is great. Don't get me wrong. I like salt. But I prefer curry. Curry is amazing. Have you ever tried curry? I lived in India for 5 years, so I love curry. I love cumin. I love garlic. I love onions. But Jesus does not say, you are the garlic of the world. If I was Jesus, I would have said, you are the curry of the world, because I love curry. Would be currying everything. Would curry on tea, curry on coffee, I'd do curry everything. Yesterday, Kaya told us about getting a pizza with kebab on it. I had never seen that. I was like, these Norwegians are miraculous. And I don't know if it's Norwegians or Turkish in Norway, but they do amazing things with kebab. And I hope this message will just get you hungry, huh? You're just going to go, let's go get lunch. But, I put curry on everything. But Jesus says, you are the salt. The seasoning. Why? Why salt specifically? Why not cumin? Why not garlic? Why not pepper? From those ones who are Nigerian. Nigerians eat pepper, they eat hot food, very hot food. The reason why he says you're the salt is because of all other ingredients, salt is the only ingredient that draws out the flavors that are inherent in other spices. So here's an example. One of my friends, Mike Maxwell, brought me this marbled, beautiful steak. And it was just one of the most beautiful. It's marbled, it's good, and I love steak. I love a good steak. I prefer goat, but I got a steak. And I asked him, I didn't want to mess it up because this steak was so good. And I told him, Mike, how do I make this steak? And Mike tells me, hey, when you get your steak, all you need to do is salt it. I was like, salt? Don't put curry, no. Don't put anything on your steak. Just put some pepper and put a lot of salt. And put more salt than you think. And I said, why? He said, because salt will draw out the flavors that are inherent within the steak. So the steak is going to taste better because salt brings out the flavors. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I made it that way, and I've never stopped making steak that way. From this day, I just keep on just salt and pepper, leave it to sit, and then just cook it. And then all after you get is this juicy, decadent, delicious steak, and you just enjoy it with all that you are. I told you you're going to be so hungry after you finish this, huh? That's what salt does. In Kenya, we make this thing called samosa. Samosas are wonderful, and I love to make samosas. Because for me, making samosas is therapeutic. You know why? Because of this. You take onions, white onions, red onions, you put them together, garlic, pepper, everything, tomatoes, you put it all together. Look at how that looks beautiful. It's beautiful, good flavor comes out of it. And then you make your goat samosas because goat samosas are good all the time. But then here's the thing. If you have any of those ingredients by themselves, they taste terrible. They taste terrible. They're not good at all. But all you need to do is to add salt on all this. And what does the salt do? It brings it all together. We are called to be the seasoning of the world. We're called to enter the onions and the pepper and the tomatoes. And what we do is that we flavor. We bring out what is already inherent. We go out and we draw out what is already inherent in the culture. And so we are called to be on the lookout to bring out what is out there. You remember I told you that Michelangelo said that in every block of stone, every block of statue every stone has a statue, and it's the work of the sculptor to discover it. It's the work of the sculptor to discover it. It's your work and my work to bring out the flavors that are inherent in every aspect of our lives. That's at our workplaces, that's in our homes, that's in our churches, that's in our communities. We become salt and we bring out the flavors. And at the end of the day, you end up with these delicious samosas. They're like an empanada, but just better. Wonderful. So as salt, we're called to be preservative and we're called to be seasoning. But then the next image he gives us is that he calls us to be the light. And you see, whenever light is in a place, darkness is the absence of light. And when God created the world, the first thing He's created is light. Why? Because we need light for life. We need light for life. And light is the one that helps us see everything else. A light helps us see everything else that is inherent in there. Yesterday I was taken by Kenny Rotori. He took me to Blink. I've never heard of this, what Blink is. So he told me, come to Blink. And I go to Blink. And I go like, oh my gosh, I've never seen Norwegians get so crazy. You know, people just doing this thing on the and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I was just watching and I was just excited about it. And I looked at that and I thought to myself, my goodness, these guys get animated, they love it, they're enjoying themselves, skiing on land. You know, they're just skiing on land. And then he told me that this is how they actually practice for cross-country skiing when there's no snow. I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh. And as I was standing there, he introduced me to another mayor of another city, and I was talking to this mayor, and this mayor told me this. She said, you know, Christian, you're a church guy. I said, yeah. He said, well, let me tell you a church story. There's a guy in my church, there's a guy in the city, my city, that came and told me, hey, mayor, what are you going to do for me in my city? And I thought to them, and the mayor said to this church leader, he said, what should I do for you? Isn't the work of the church to serve? Isn't that the work of the church is to be light? Aren't you supposed to be the light? Shouldn't be the church that is coming to the city and saying to the city, what do you need from us? And it reminded me of a church in Portland that one day went to the city mayor and said, Mayor, we're here to serve. And how can we serve you? And the city mayor said, here's what you can do. And they started serving the city. They served the city so well that they asked the pastor of missions in the church to come and sit on the city council. That's how much they were light to the city of Portland. This is what we're called to be. We're called to be light in such a way that we are serving our community, not being served by the community. That the light helps us see where we are. Can you imagine if we turned off all the lights in here? We become disoriented, we lose our direction. The world is like that. It's lost direction. It's disoriented. And Jesus is saying, you and I have been called to be the light. When we show up, darkness is dispelled. How do we show up? How do we show up? Are there after-school programs that we can work to bring light? Are there single moms who are struggling, not just here but around the world, that we can be a light to them? Are there orphans that are feeling left aside and we can be a light to them? What would we look like if we were to be the light, because we need light for life? And when there is light, it brings a significant, transcendent goodness and beauty. And then it says, you are like a lamp. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand. You are like a lamp. A lamp cannot produce light. A lamp cannot produce light. A lamp can only hold light. As light, we're called to reflect the ultimate light. We don't have any light in us. But when we are connected to the light, what happens? We become a lamp. Now, remember, it's not a floodlight. We're called to be a lamp. There was no electricity in those days of Jesus talking. A lamp is gentle. A lamp is beautiful. And so we're called to give people their orientation by being light to them. We don't produce our own light. We only reflect the light that is in us. That's what we're called to do. We're called to reflect. In Him and through Him, we reflect the ultimate light. In Him and through Him, we reflect the ultimate light. I pray that we can dispel darkness, and you and I are the bearers of such light. So as salt, we preserve and we draw out the goodness inherent in the world. As light, we walk into a place and we dispel darkness by reflecting the ultimate light. And so that's what we're called to do. But then how are we called to do it? How are we called to do it? So let's look at both the salt and the light and how it does it. The first thing we're called to do is to maintain contact and proximity, yet distinctly. That's why Jesus says, when the salt loses its saltiness. Have you lost your saltiness? So for salt to work, you have to put it on the steak. For salt to work, you have to put it on the condiments. For salt to work, it has to make contact. Proximity changes everything. Proximity changes everything. I learned this from an Algerian proverb. We have some partners in Egypt, and they told me this. When you look at something from a distance, it looks like a mountain. When it comes a little closer, it looks like a tree. When you come closer, it looks like an animal. When you come up close and personal, you realize it's your brother. The idea is this: do not keep things at a distance. Keep close, proximity, and yet remain distinct. Do not lose your saltiness. How do we lose our saltiness? We lose our saltiness by compromising our ethics, by being like everybody else. I tell my daughter this because she has different hair, and wherever she comes from, people look at her different, and I tell her, Kabi, do not ever fit in when you are made to stand out. Do not ever fit in when you're meant to stand out. Be close in contact, be in proximity, but still stand out. Do you react the same way that everybody reacts when things go wrong? Do you just throw words? Do you just get upset because something has gone wrong? Or do you remain distinct? Salt works in contact and proximity, but in a distinct way. You have to be distinctly different for salt to work. In America today, people have lost their saltiness because especially the church has tied itself with the politics of the world. And I tell them this, that Jesus did not call us to be far right or call us to be far left. He called us to be far out. We are to maintain our distinctiveness as salt and light by being far out, not far left or far right. When we live in that world where we've been caught up by a nationalism, or we've been caught up by an agenda, whether it's a left agenda or a right agenda, it doesn't matter what the agenda is. Our main agenda is Jesus, is to be salt and light, to keep proximity, to keep contact, but to be distinct. What would happen if we did that? Second aspect is to contact and proximity, but it must be painful. Have you ever put salt on a wound? Have you ever put salt on a wound? What happens? It's painful. It hurts. And sometimes as Christians, we need to be clear, but being clear is very kind. Being clear is to be kind. Sometimes the things that we say may hurt. Jesus, 1 John says this, Jesus came full of grace and truth. He showed up and he met us where we are, but he never left us as we are. We don't let the world remain as it is. When we make contact with people, you can affirm them and bless them and say, brother, sister, you're doing this great, but I'll call you into this. It might be a little painful, but it's kind. To be clear is to be kind. Do people in your world know that you're a Christian? Do they know that you love God? Do they know that you are part of a greater community? Have you maintained close contact, but you're afraid because you think, if I say I'm a Christian, it's going to be painful. But that's what salt is. Salt keeps contact, proximity, but it also can be painful. It needs to maintain contact and proximity. At times, it may be painful for you and for those around you, but ultimately, it brings healing and restoration. The idea of putting salt on a wound is to bring healing and restoration. We are called to do that. Contact and proximity, but then it dissolves. Have you ever put salt on a steak? What happens? After a while, the salt dissipates. When Jesus calls us to be salt, he's saying it's not about us climbing the mountain so that people can see us. We climb the mountain so that people can see God. Our work is to actually dissolve. Once we make contact, once we make proximity, it's to go away. I tell our church this, that our church has been called to be a catalyst. What's a catalyst? for those scientists. A catalyst speeds up a reaction, but a second aspect of a catalyst is that it leaves no residue of itself. We're called to be catalysts. It's not about us, it's about Him. And so we have to dissolve at the end of the day. And then we're called to be salt as community. No one grain of salt can change the world. A grain of salt cannot change a steak. But when the grains come together, what happens? A community is formed. And so we, as a community, are the salt of the world. And you see, we get this wrong because we read the Bible from our Western lenses, and the Bible reads to us like you are the salt of the world. But the language that he is used is y'all. People from the South understand this. They understand y'all, because they have now second person pronoun. Because you is you and you is you. But for the people in the South, they say y'all. So y'all are the salt of the earth. You've been called as a community to maintain proximity, to maintain contact together. That's what you get to do. And then light as a lamp is gentle, but it burns out. When you see a lamp on a hill, it lights the world, but then it slowly dissipates. A lamp is warm, gentle, and kind, and it reflects Jesus. I have really enjoyed being here. I've enjoyed the missions moments. And today's mission moment was particularly unbelievable for me because you are salt and light to these 59 kids. You don't know where these 59 kids will end up. You never know where they may end up. One of them may end up being the president of the United States. We just don't know who she is. You never know what happens when you make contact and proximity. You have been salt. Scotty and your team, thank you. We honor you, we bless you for the great work that you've done this week, because that's what you are. You are a warm light, a light that showed the true light, and then it will slowly dissipate. And that's what we've been called to be, a warm, gentle light. I love what Miroslav Volf said in this. He said, our distinction is strong, which means you are called to be radically different from the world, but it's not hard. Fear for oneself and one's identity creates a hardness. The difference is that it joins itself with hardness, always presents the other with a choice. Either submit or be rejected. Either become like me or get away from me. A decision for a soft different, on the other hand, presupposes fearlessness. People who are secure in themselves are rather secure in their God and are able to live a soft difference without fear. They have no need to subordinate or damn others, but can allow others space to be themselves and for them. Mission fundamentally takes the form of witness and invitation. They seek to win others without pressure, manipulation, sometimes even without a word. Sometimes without even a word. It's a soft difference. Meet people where they are, don't leave them as they are. Meet people where they are, don't leave them as they are. So that's how we're called to be. So lastly, what's our motivation to do it? By the virtue of your relationship with me, you are already salt, you are already light. This is your identity. How do we do it? Because this is your identity. Your identity is that you are His child. Your identity is that you are His. I love this analogy. When I went to America, I found these guys playing this crazy game. They called it football. I don't understand why they call it football, because nobody kicks the ball except one person. I come from Kenya and Africa where we play the real football. Somebody kicks a ball with their foot. That's what you call football. When you throw an egg with your hand, it's supposed to be called hand egg. Anyway, I was watching this game and I couldn't understand it. But my wife had to explain it to me. She had to tell me, this is what they do. They get into huddle, and I'm like, my gosh, what are they doing talking all the time? They stop, and they talk, and they talk, and they talk, and they talk. And I'm going like, these guys are crazy. Just play the ball. We play 90 minutes, and we continue. These guys, every play, they stop, they have to stop. And I was like, oh my gosh, this game is boring. But when I understood it, I actually found out it was genius. American football is like chess. You get in, and you're drawing a play. But can you imagine if we just remained in the huddle? The church has done that for years. We're just in the huddle. We're just talking to each other. We are floodlighting on each other. We're being salt to each other. We're being light on each other. Nobody has the courage of taking the ball and calling a play and running, and that's when it gets really exciting. Because you see all the people running to the different positions, and when somebody catches the ball, you go like, oh my gosh, that was incredible. When we come here on Sunday, our work is to call a play. But then the rest of the week is to run the play. The rest of the week is to be salt and to be light. Our motivation is that what we come here to be fed is that we look at the light, we're filled by the light, we're filled by the salt, and then we go out and run the play. And that's when I understood American football, I was like, I get it. But unfortunately, the church is in the holy huddle. We're huddling with each other, we're talking to each other, but we have not run the play. And yet, he did not stay in the huddle. He left high heaven. He came amongst us. He was beaten. He was disoriented. He was disintegrated. And he lost power. He was thirsty. He was discomforted. He was abandoned. He cried, my God, why have you forsaken me? He experienced hopelessness. He experienced disorientation. And so that we will never have to live in eternal decay. When Jesus comes into the world, the light of the world showed up. The light shone in darkness. And when he died on the cross, darkness filled the earth during the day. He showed up at night, and there was light. He died during the day, and there was darkness. Why? Because he was having us be that to ourselves, to our world. A decaying, disintegrating, dislocated, degenerating life. You see, Jesus showed up so that you and I can be the salt of the world. He showed up so that we can be the light. We are already light. We are already this. I'll end with this story. There were people in Scotland many years ago that were in a meeting like this. And they were given a message, maybe like this, maybe the same message. And one of them, or a few of them, decided to take that message seriously. So they left their comfort home in Scotland and they made their way to an African village. When they got to the village, they found some Africans getting on their knees, looking at a mountain and praying to the mountain. They asked the Africans, what are you doing? And the Africans said this to them, that mountain is too beautiful, it's too majestic, it must have some power. So we pray to the God of the mountain. The young people, the people in the village said, oh my gosh, we've always wondered, this majestic mountain, where does it come from? And I said, let's tell you about the creator of the mountain. So they started telling them about the creator of the mountain. One of the young people was so excited about learning about the source of the creator of the mountain, about the Bible. And he said, can you come and tell everybody in my village? And I'll cook for you. And so he did that. They went and set up a mission station. And this young man became a chef there. Then this young man brought up his 12 kids, because we Africans understand multiply and fill the earth. So he had 12 kids, and he brought up his 12 kids in the ways of God. One of his kids actually became a pastor, a Presbyterian pastor in that country. That pastor's kid is this voice that you're listening to today. When I was born, my grandfather asked if I could be named Harrison. Harrison was his favorite missionary from Scotland who had made his way to my grandfather's village. Because of that, my dad became a pastor, and today I'm here. When Harrison from Scotland left Scotland, he never knew that there would be a Harrison in America. But I am here. My first name is Harrison. Why? He chose to be salt. He chose to be light. We can be that. That's what we've been called to do. And I pray that you can do the same. That there will be many Harrisons in the world because you are salt and you are light. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a writer. I just finished writing the story of that in a book called People Are the Wealth. My dad told me, son, money will make you rich, it will never make you wealthy. You're only as wealthy as the people you have around you, because people are the wealth. So I just finished writing the story of this because I want to honor stories like that of Harrison who left Scotland so that this Harrison can come to Stavanger. That's what Jesus did. He left heaven, came on earth, became salt, became light, so that we can go and face our world. And so I'm going to ask the worship team to come, and as they come, as we finish, would you? I have loved being with you. I've enjoyed being with you. You've become family to me. My appeal to you is to go out there and start with your home. Start with your home. Start with your workplace. Start Start with your city, your community, and then the ends of the earth. And you are already doing that. The missions moments have been exciting to hear all that you're doing in Lesotho and other countries, because you are salt, you are light, and you can make a difference in our world. Father, I'm grateful for these men and women that have extended themselves to me, have been gracious, have been kind. The Rectory family that have been so gracious to my family and I. Would you bless them? Would you keep them? Would you make your face to shine upon them? And would you remind them their unique identity, that they are salt, they are light, and that they can go out there and change the world, because that's what you've called them to be. Would you glorify yourself